The warning beacons had not activated in 200 cycles. Vextel stood at the observation dome of Council Station Prime, his 6 manipulator arms folded across his thorax in the traditional posture of deep contemplation. Beyond the transparent alloy, stars burned cold and indifferent. Somewhere out there, beyond the fog of interstellar dust and forgotten treaties, lay the exclusion zone. No ship enters, the directive read. No signal transmits. No one wakes the humans. He had read the histories. Every young diplomat read the histories. The words described a species so relentlessly adaptable that they turned their own death world into a garden. Creatures that evolved from persistence hunters, beings who simply refused to stop chasing until their prey collapsed from exhaustion. The old records called them terrifying not because of their weapons, but because of their stillness. A human at rest, the reports said, was a human calculating. Still staring at nothing, Vex. He turned. Elder Zorak drifted into the dome, his gelatinous form rippling with amusement. The oldest living council member, the one who had signed the Human Containment Accord. "They're just a story," Vextel said. "Fairy tales to keep young diplomats obedient." Zorak's membrane pulsed with something that might have been laughter or sorrow. "I watched their last war, child. I was there when their ambassadors came to negotiate. Do you know what they offered?" Vextel waited. "Nothing," Zorak whispered. "They offered nothing. They simply said, 'Put us to sleep, or we will burn every world between here and Andromeda.' The council didn't hesitate. We built the stasis fields ourselves." A proximity alert chimed on Vextel's wrist terminal. His blood equivalent ran cold, or as cold as his species could manage. A ship had breached the exclusion perimeter. Not council military. Scavengers, fools. "The beacons," Vextel breathed. "They're still active. The scavengers will see them." Zorak's form contracted violently. "The beacons are not warnings for the humans, young one." "Then what are they for?" The elder's voice dropped to something ancient and afraid. "They are warnings for everyone else. Run." The terminal displayed a live feed from the Mars outpost. The scavenger ship had landed near a sealed habitat dome. 3 figures in pressure suits approached the entrance. Vextel zoomed in. The door had no handles, no interface, just a smooth surface with ancient writing etched in faded letters. One of the scavengers touched the surface. Lights flickered inside the dome. Not emergency lights, not system diagnostics. Lights that followed patterns, rhythms, the patterns of something waking up. "Get me a channel to that ship," Vextel demanded. "Now." But the channel opened before he could speak. The scavenger's face filled the screen, a Vorkath male, scales pale with fear. "We didn't know," he stammered. "The beacons were old, we thought." Behind him the habitat door split open. Not swung, split. Metal tore like paper, and from the darkness emerged a figure, taller than any Vorkath, bipedal, wearing a suit that looked more like skin than fabric. The human raised one hand, not in greeting. In calculation. The feed cut to static. Vextel stared at the dead screen. Behind him, Zorak made a sound no council member had heard in living memory. The elder was weeping. And somewhere in the Sol system, 300 years of silence ended with a single transmission, broadcast on every frequency. "We're awake. Who wants to explain?" The council chamber held 400 delegates. Every major species in the known galaxy had representation. Every one of them sat in absolute silence as the recording played. The human had not spoken in the feed. It hadn't needed to. The way it moved told the entire story. Efficient, deliberate. The scavengers fired their weapons, plasma bolts that should have vaporized organic tissue. The human didn't flinch. The bolts hit something around it, a shimmer that bent light and physics both. Personal shielding. The humans had personal shielding 300 years ago before the stasis. Then the human moved. Not fast. The old records had lied about that. Humans weren't fast. They were inevitable. The creature stepped through plasma fire like walking through rain. When it reached the first scavenger, it didn't kill him. It touched his helmet and whispered something. The audio wasn't clear, but the lip readers in the chamber translated. "Where are the others?" The scavenger pointed toward his ship. The recording ended there. The scavenger ship's black box had been recovered 3 days later, drifting near the orbit of Jupiter. No crew, no bodies, just the ship, powered down, with a single message painted on the hull in Vorkath blood. "We remember." Elder Zorak floated to the central podium. His membrane had turned gray, a sign of extreme stress among his people. "The human containment protocols are now void," he announced. "The stasis fields collapsed when the Mars outpost reactivated. Earth is waking up. We have approximately 40 of their rotations before their industrial capacity reaches full output." A Trilix delegate rose on his 12 legs. "Then we attack now, a preemptive strike. We have the largest fleet in." "We tried that," Zorak cut him off. "3 times. The first war we outnumbered their ships 20-1. They lost every major engagement, but they never surrendered. They kept building, kept adapting. By the second war the ratio was 5-1. By the third they met us ship for ship." Another delegate spoke, voice trembling. "What changed?" Zorak's membrane pulsed dark. "They learned. That's what humans do. They learn faster than any species has a right to. During the Second War, they reverse-engineered our FTL drives in 6 months. It took us 400 years to develop that technology." Vextel stood at his delegation station, watching the arguments spiral. Some demanded negotiation. Others demanded immediate genocide. A few, the young ones, the ones who hadn't seen the records, suggested humanity might be reasoned with. None of them noticed the secondary alert on Vextel's terminal. A ship had exited FTL at the edge of Council space. No identification beacon, no hailing frequency, just a vessel constructed from materials that shouldn't exist outside the Sol system. The ship's trajectory pointed directly at Station Prime. "They're coming," Vextel whispered. The chamber went still as he broadcast the telemetry to the main display. 400 delegates watched the unknown ship accelerate, watched it ignore hails, watched it move with a purpose that felt almost patient. Then the transmission cut. A new voice filled the chamber, not through any official channel. It came from everywhere: the speakers, the comms, the personal terminals of every delegate. A human voice, calm, clear, terrifyingly polite. "Greetings from the Sol Republic. We're aware our awakening has caused concern. Please remain where you are. A representative will arrive shortly to discuss terms." The ship docked with Station Prime 17 minutes later. The docking bay cameras showed a single figure walking down the ramp, female by human standards, average height, unarmed. She wore a simple gray shipsuit and carried nothing but a data slate. Her name, according to the ship's manifest, was Commander Jessa Rainier. She walked through the council corridors without escort, navigating the station's layout as if she'd studied it for years, which Vextel realized she probably had. The humans had been asleep, but their machines hadn't. Intelligence drones, surveillance probes. Humanity had been watching the entire time. Commander Rainier entered the chamber. 400 delegates leaned back from their stations. Some made defensive gestures. A few reached for weapons. Rainier smiled. It was not a warm expression. "You wanted to know who woke us," she said, placing the data slate on the central podium. "We already know. Their name is Vorkath. Their homeworld is in the Cathara system, and they just made a very serious mistake." She tapped the slate. A holographic map appeared, showing the known galaxy. 3 council worlds pulsed with red markers. "These are the colonies your scavengers hit before Mars. They took resources. They took equipment. They took 3 human civilians who were supposed to be in stasis." Her voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. "We're not here to declare war. we're here to give you a warning. The scavengers who woke us, their ship is gone. Their crew is gone, but their homeworld still exists." She looked at the Vorkath delegate, who had gone pale beneath his scales. For now, the Vorkath delegation evacuated the chamber within minutes. Commander Rainier watched them go, her expression unchanged. The remaining delegates sat frozen, unsure whether to run or speak. Vextal made the choice for them. "What do you want?" Rainier turned to face him. Her eyes moved across his form, 6 arms, chitinous plating, the distinctive bioluminescent patterns of his species. She didn't stare. She assessed. "Straight to the point," she said. "I like that. What I want is simple. The Council's guarantee that no ship will enter the Sol exclusion zone for the next 100 cycles." A Scythian delegate buzzed with indignation. "And if we refuse, your species is one world, one fleet we have." 300 capital ships, Rainier interrupted. 12,000 support vessels. A combined military force of 8 million personnel. I know the numbers. We've been counting. She walked to the central podium, her boots clicking against the ancient metal. "What you don't know is that our Mars outpost wasn't just a mining facility. It was a production hub. Every piece of equipment your scavengers stole had tracking isotopes. Every ship that touched those stolen goods is now tagged." The chamber's temperature seemed to drop. "Your supply lines, your fuel depots, your ammunition caches, we can see all of it. And if we wanted to destroy it, we could do so before you finished arguing about protocol." Elder Zarek floated forward, his membrane a sickly gray-green. "You're bluffing. Humanity has no FTL-capable warships. Your fleet is still in dry dock." Rainier smiled again, that terrible, cold smile. "Elder, we've been building for 300 years. The stasis fields only kept us asleep. Our automated shipyards never stopped. Do you know what's waiting in the Uit cloud?" She tapped her data slate. The holographic map zoomed out, showing the entire Sol system. Then beyond, a cloud of contacts appeared, thousands of them, tens of thousands. Automated defense platforms, each one carrying enough kinetic firepower to crack a moon. Each one crewed by machine intelligences that don't get tired, don't get scared, and don't negotiate. The Scythian delegate collapsed back into his seat. "You're insane," someone whispered. Rainier's expression shifted. For a moment, just a moment, the mask slipped. Vextal saw something underneath. Not anger, not hatred, something worse. Exhaustion. "No," she said quietly. "We're not insane, we're tired. We're tired of being poked and prodded and invaded. The first war we tried diplomacy, you shot our ambassadors. The second war we tried defense, you burned our colonies. The third war we tried running, you followed." She placed both hands on the podium. "So this time, we're trying something different. This time, we wake up and we tell you exactly what's going to happen. You're going to let us rebuild in peace. You're going to forget we exist. And you're going to make damn sure no one ever wakes us again." "And if we refuse?" Vextal asked again. Rainier looked at him, really looked. The weight of 3 centuries pressed down on that single gaze. "Then we show you why the old stories call us monsters." The council voted that rotation. The motion to guarantee the Sol exclusion zone passed by a narrow margin, 211 to 189. The dissenting delegates walked out, muttering about appeasement and cowardice. Among them was the Vorkath ambassador. Vextal watched the dissidents leave. He wanted to feel relief. The humans had gotten what they wanted. The galaxy was safe. But Commander Rainier hadn't left. She stood by the podium, watching the same exits. And when she turned to face the remaining delegates, her expression had changed again. "One more thing," she said. "The Vorkath delegation that just walked out, they're heading to their ship right now. In approximately 6 hours, they'll transmit everything they learned here to their homeworld." She pulled up a star chart. The Cathara system glowed red. The Vorkath matriarchy has 47 billion citizens, 12 inhabited worlds, 4 major shipyards, and a military doctrine that prioritizes attack over defense. Her finger traced a line from Kithara to Council space, then to Earth. They're already mobilizing. We've seen their fleet movements. They think this is their chance to destroy us before we rebuild. She looked up at the assembled delegates. We're not going to let them. The Vorkath fleet jumped into the Sol system 63 hours later. They expected resistance. They expected orbital defenses, planetary garrisons, the remnants of humanity's ancient military infrastructure. What they found was nothing. Empty space. Silent colonies. Earth itself broadcast no signals, showed no lights on the night side. Admiral Kithvor, commander of the Vorkath Expeditionary Force, stared at his tactical display in confusion. Where are they? His sensor officer clicked uncertainty. Unknown, Admiral. The human homeworld appears. Abandoned. All colonies show signs of recent habitation but no life signs. It's as if they simply left. They didn't leave, Kithvor growled. They're hiding. Scan for stealth signatures, every frequency, every. The proximity alarm screamed. A single ship dropped out of FTL directly in front of the Vorkath flagship. Not a warship. A transport. Civilian design. Painted in the colors of a human mining corporation. Kithvor ordered weapons charged. Hail them. The channel opened to a human male in work clothes. Behind him, Vextal could see a cargo bay filled with rocks, just rocks, asteroid ore by the look of it. Afternoon, the human said cheerfully. You folks lost. Kithvor's scales rippled with fury. Where is your military? Where are your defenses? The human shrugged. Don't need 'em. We're just miners. See, we heard you were coming, so we figured we'd save you the trouble of looking for us. He pressed something off-screen. The transport's cargo bay doors opened. The rocks floated out into space. Then they started moving, not drifting, propelling. Each rock had a guidance system. Each rock had a warhead. The human smiled. We call these pebbles. Each one has the yield of a small nuclear device. We've got about 10 million of them scattered throughout the system. Enjoy your stay. The transmission cut. Kithvor barely had time to order evasive maneuvers before the first wave hit. The pebbles weren't fast. They weren't smart. But there were so many, so impossibly many. Each impact tore through Vorkath hulls like tissue paper. Shields meant nothing against solid mass moving at a significant fraction of light speed. In 17 minutes, the Vorkath fleet lost 30% of its combat capability. Kithvor ordered a retreat. The surviving ships jumped away, leaving wreckage and dead floating in the void. But the horror had only begun. When the Vorkath fleet emerged from FTL at their forward supply base, they found it burning. Human ships, actual warships this time, circled the wreckage like wolves around a carcass. The supply base hadn't been destroyed. It had been dismantled. Every fuel cell, every ammunition crate, every spare part, all of it gone. A transmission came through on general frequency. Admiral Kithvor, this is Commander Rainier. Your homeworld is now 72 hours behind our current position. We have your supply chains. We have your communication networks. We have your families. Static. Surrender your fleet and they live. Kithvor stared at the view screen. His claws dug into the armrest of his command chair. He had heard the stories, the old ones from the wars before. He had thought them exaggerated. Propaganda to make the ancestors feel better about losing. He had been wrong. On what authority do you demand our surrender? He asked. Rainier's face appeared on the screen. No smile now, no mask, just cold, absolute certainty. On the authority of every human who ever died in your wars, on the memory of colonies you burned, on the bodies of our children you left floating in space. She leaned closer to the camera. You wanted to wake the humans, Congratulations, now watch us work. The Vorkath homeworld, Cathara Prime, had not known war in 800 years. Its cities stretched across 3 continents, connected by maglev trains and gleaming sky bridges. 47 billion beings lived beneath an atmosphere carefully engineered to be perfect. Atmospheric processors maintained the temperature. Orbital mirrors adjusted the light. Weather control stations prevented storms. It was, by any measure, a paradise. Commander Rainier watched it from the bridge of the Sol Invictus, humanity's first true warship in 3 centuries. Around her, the human fleet assembled in the darkness beyond Cathara's moon. Not a large fleet, not by Council standards, but large enough. "Status report," she ordered. Her tactical officer, a young man named Valencia, pointed to the display. "Kinetic rods are in position. All 3 target clusters are locked. Atmospheric processors, orbital mirrors, and weather stations. We can take them all in one pass." The civilian population. Valencia hesitated. "Estimates suggest minimal ground casualties if we target only the infrastructure. The atmosphere will remain breathable for approximately 6 months without processors. After that." He didn't finish. He didn't need to. Rainier nodded. "Open a channel to the planet." The Vorkath leadership appeared on the screen. A council of elders, their scales dark with age and fear. Behind them, Rainier could see the Capitol building, a structure of white towers and golden spires. Beautiful, peaceful. None of the elders spoke. "At 800 tomorrow, by your local time, we will destroy your atmospheric processors," Rainier said. "At 8:05, we will destroy your orbital mirrors. At 8:10, your weather control stations." An elder stepped forward. "You would kill billions for what? For revenge?" Rainier shook her head. "Not revenge, demonstration. Your fleet attacked our homeworld. Your scavengers woke us from stasis. Your leaders voted against the exclusion zone. You chose this." "We did not choose." "You chose war the moment you refused to leave us alone." Rainier's voice didn't rise. It cut. "The Council will watch what happens here. They will see that humanity can take your paradise and turn it into a tomb, and they will remember." The elder's scales flattened with terror. "What do you want?" "Surrender, full and unconditional. Your fleet stands down. Your shipyards go to Council oversight. Your people submit to human inspection for the next 50 cycles." "And if we refuse?" Rainier gestured to Valencia. The display shifted, showing the kinetic rods, tungsten cylinders the size of buildings, each one accelerated to a measurable fraction of light speed. The rods hung in space like spears aimed at the heart of Cathara Prime. "Then tomorrow, we stop aiming at your infrastructure." She closed the channel. The Vorkath surrendered 14 hours later. Admiral Kithvor personally signed the Articles of Capitulation, his claws shaking so badly he could barely hold the stylus. The fleet returned to Cathara. The shipyards went dark. The inspection teams arrived. But the Council hadn't seen the full picture. They saw the humans win. They saw the Vorkath broken. They assumed humanity would stop now, would rebuild, would return to isolation. They assumed wrong. Commander Rainier stood on the bridge of the Sol Invictus, watching the Vorkath homeworld drift in the viewport. Valencia approached with a data slate. "New orders from Earth," he said quietly. "We're to proceed to the Trilix border." Rainier raised an eyebrow. "The Trilix voted for the exclusion zone." "They did," Valencia agreed. "But their patrol ships have been probing our perimeter for the last 72 hours. Command wants to send a message." "What kind of message?" Valencia handed her the slate. She read the orders. For the first time since waking, Commander Jessa Rainier smiled a genuine smile. It was terrifying. "Tell Command we'll be there in 48 hours, she said. "And tell them to warm up the shipyards. This is going to be a long war." Admiral Thrax of the Trilix Collective had spent his entire career preparing for this moment. He had studied the human wars. He had analyzed their tactics, their technology, their psychology. He knew their strengths. He knew their weaknesses. Or so he believed. The Trilix fleet assembled at the edge of the Sol exclusion zone, 3,000 capital ships, the largest armada in galactic history. Thrax commanded from the Unconquerable, a dreadnought so heavily armored that it could survive a direct hit from most planetary defense systems. He had not come to invade. He had come to negotiate from strength. The humans needed to understand that the Council would not be bullied, that the Vorkath surrender was an anomaly, not a precedent. His communication officer announced an incoming transmission. Commander Rainier's face appeared on the screen. "Admiral Thrax, you're violating the exclusion zone." "I'm here to discuss terms," Thrax replied. "Your aggression against the Vorkath was justified," the Council agreed. "The Council agreed because you threatened them." Rainier tilted her head. "I didn't threaten anyone. I made predictions, accurate ones. Now I'll ask again, why are you here?" Thrax straightened his carapace. "To demand that humanity withdraw from Vorkath space. To demand that your fleet return to Sol. To demand that you submit to Council oversight, just as you demanded of the Vorkath." Rainier was quiet for a long moment. Then she laughed, not a cold laugh, not a cruel laugh, a genuine, surprised laugh that made Thrax's blood run cold. "You want oversight? Fine. We'll submit to Council oversight, but first you need to understand something." She gestured off-screen. The view shifted to show the human fleet, not the small force that had faced the Vorkath, but the full might of Sol's military. Thousands of ships, tens of thousands. "How did you hide this?" Thrax whispered. "We didn't hide them, you just didn't want to see." Rainier's voice hardened. "Every time you looked at us, you saw a primitive species crawling out of the mud. You never considered that we might have been watching you back, learning, preparing." The human fleet moved forward, not attacking, just advancing, a wall of steel and firepower that filled the viewport from edge to edge. "Admiral, I'm going to give you one chance. Turn your fleet around. Go back to your homeworld. Tell the Council that humanity wants peace. Tell them we're willing to forget this ever happened." Thrax's claws trembled. "And if I refuse?" Rainier's expression softened. For a moment she looked almost sad. "Then you'll learn why the Vorkath surrendered." The Trilix fleet didn't retreat. They couldn't. Thrax had his orders, and his orders came from the Council itself. The humans had to be stopped, had to be contained, had to be reminded that the galaxy belonged to everyone. The battle lasted 11 minutes. Human ships didn't dodge. They didn't evade. They flew straight into the Trilix formation and opened fire with weapons the Council had never seen. Plasma that bent around shields, projectiles that changed trajectory mid-flight, electronic warfare that turned Trilix systems against themselves. But the worst part, the part that would haunt Thrax for the rest of his life, was the silence. Human ships fought without chatter, without battle cries, without any of the emotional noise that defined galactic warfare. They fought like machines, like they had done this 1,000 times before. Because they had. When the Unconquerable lost its main power, Thrax watched the tactical display in disbelief. His fleet was gone. Not destroyed, gone. Human boarding parties had captured every major vessel. Crews surrendered within minutes. They had seen what resistance cost, and they wanted no part of it. Rainier's face reappeared on the screen. Behind her, Thrax could see the bridge of a human ship, but not the Sol Invictus. Something smaller, something older. "That's not your flagship," Thrax said. Rainier shook her head. "I've been on this ship for the entire engagement. The Sol Invictus is automated, has been since we left Earth." Thrax felt something inside him crack. "Then where are your crews?" "Safe," Rainier smiled. "Far from the fighting. We learned a long time ago that you don't win wars by dying. You win by surviving, by adapting, by being willing to do things your enemy can't imagine." She leaned forward. "Now about those terms." The council chamber had been rebuilt 3 times in the last century. Each reconstruction made it larger, grander, more impressive. But on the day humanity returned to negotiate the new accord, the chamber felt smaller than Vextal remembered. Commander Rainier stood at the central podium, alone. No guards, no weapons, just a woman in a gray shipsuit facing 400 delegates who had learned to fear her species. Elder Zorek had not survived the Trillich's defeat. His membrane had given out during the emergency session that followed, his body unable to process the stress of humanity's return. The new elder, a young Trilix named Serac, floated at the head of the chamber with barely concealed hatred. "You destroyed our fleet," Serac said. "We disabled it," Rainier corrected. "Your crews are unharmed. Your ships are intact. We're not conquerors, Elder, we're survivors." "You burned 3 worlds. The Vorkath burned themselves when they refused to surrender. We gave them every opportunity." Serac's membrane pulsed darkly. "And the Trillichs, what opportunity did you give us?" Rainier was quiet for a moment. Then she reached into her shipsuit and pulled out a small device. She placed it on the podium. The chamber's lights flickered. "This is a recording," she said. "It contains every communication between the Trillichs Collective and the Vorkath Matriarchy for the last 50 cycles, including the messages that encouraged the Vorkath to wake us." The chamber went still. "You knew," Serac whispered. "We knew, we always knew. The question was never whether you were responsible, it was whether we would punish you for it." Rainier's voice dropped. "We've decided not to. Instead, we're offering a deal. Humanity will withdraw to the Sol system. We will dismantle our fleet. We will return to stasis if you wish. In exchange, the Council will leave us alone, permanently." Vextal stood from his delegation station. "Why would you offer that? You've won. You could rule the galaxy." Rainier turned to face him. Her eyes held something he hadn't seen before. Not exhaustion, not coldness. "Hope. Because we don't want to rule anything. We want to live. We want to raise our children without fear. We want to watch our sun rise without wondering if today will be the day someone tries to destroy us." She walked away from the podium, toward the observation dome. The delegates parted to let her pass. "We've spent 300 years preparing for a war that never came. We've built weapons we pray we'll never use. We've become monsters so that our children can be human again." She placed her hand on the transparent alloy, staring at the stars beyond. "So here's the deal. Leave us alone, forget we exist, and we will forget about you. No more wars, no more threats, no more nightmares." Serac floated forward. "And if we refuse?" Rainier turned. Her smile was small, tired, genuine. "Then you haven't been paying attention." The Council voted unanimously. The Sol exclusion zone was expanded to cover 20 light-years in every direction. Human ships would be allowed to travel freely, but no Council vessel would approach Earth without explicit invitation. The stasis fields were decommissioned. Humanity was awake. And the galaxy could finally breathe. But in the observation dome, after the delegates had left, Commander Rainier stood alone with Vextal. The young diplomat had stayed behind. He had questions. She had answers. "Will you really leave us alone?" he asked. Rainier looked at him, really looked. The weight of centuries pressed between them. "We'll try," she said. "But we're human, we're curious, we're stubborn, and we've seen what's out there." She gestured to the stars. "There are things in this galaxy that even the Council fears. Things that make humans look gentle. When those things come, you'll need someone willing to fight. Someone willing to burn." She walked toward the exit. "We'll be watching, and when you need us, we'll come." Vextal watched her go. He wanted to believe her. wanted to believe that humanity would stay in their corner, content with their sun and their children and their peace. But he remembered the stories, the old ones, the warnings. Never wake the humans. Because once they're awake, they don't go back to sleep. And somewhere in the depths of the Sol Invictus, in a sealed room that didn't exist on any schematic, a human commander looked at a star map and whispered to another, "Which one do we take first?"